Hello and welcome to Truth TV. On today's episode, the Democrats call it voting at home, but the GOP worries that voter fraud is afoot. Election integrity is increasingly becoming a very partisan issue. We'll tell you why with chief political correspondent Graham J. Noble. Ahmaud Arbery is running wild and hot in the Twitter zone. Liberty Nation's Jeff Charles joins us. And the political battle over the little red pill has some in Tinseltown freaked out. All this and more on today's edition of Truth TV.
Truth is making a comeback.
It appears the coronavirus has given Democrats license to do what they've been pushing for a while now, to vote by mail. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi has touted a $3.6 billion bill that she dubs voting at home. What could possibly be the problem here? Well, a lot. If your voter rolls include dead people, those born in 1823, and multiple ballots going to the very same person. Liberty Nation's chief political correspondent Graham J. Noble joins us to unpack this potential can of worms. Welcome to Truth TV, Graham.
Hi, Lisa.
So in a nutshell, what is Pelosi proposing here?
Well, what they're working on is basically something they like to call vote at home, which sounds very cozy and safe for everybody, I guess. It's essentially mail-in voting, whereby what happens is a few weeks before an election, people get their ballots mailed to them. And then, of course, the idea is that they simply, take them out of the envelope and mark their choices and put them back in the included envelope and stick them back in the mail. So, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I did an interview this week with a guy by the name of J. Christian Adams of the Public Interest Legal Foundation, and he shows egregious problems in voter rolls in 42 states. Michigan appears to have flagrant issues. They don't seem very willing to fix them.
No, they're not willing to fix them because, and I think there's a variety of reasons for that. I think one is that it's an awful lot of work. That's a lot of work to do, and I think purging the voter rolls, which is something that should be done in all states and all jurisdictions, that's a major task because they've got to go through and find out who's no longer alive and who's moved, and all of that kind of stuff. That's a big task. It's a very expensive task, and also, of course, the other reason why I don't think they want to do it is, quite frankly, is I don't think they are as interested in the integrity of elections as they like to have us believe.
Yeah, but if you've got somebody who, on the voter rolls, who was quote unquote born in 1823, another guy gets 7 ballots. You wrote a piece this week entitled "Election Fraud: The Myth and the Reality." What do you mean by that? What did you find?
Well, what I meant by when I titled the article that way, what I meant is that the reality is that there is widespread voter fraud across the country, and of course the progressive movement, if you like, is very much trying to tell everyone that is a myth, that in fact voter fraud is not a problem. It rarely happens, if at all. And then, of course, there's another myth, which is the myth put about by the progressive movement, that somehow requiring people to show a valid state-issued photo ID in order to vote is somehow suppressing the vote, because apparently there's millions of American citizens out there who simply don't have a photo ID. And if they don't, I have no idea how they're even getting through the day, because you have to have a photo ID for everything. So that's another myth.
Yeah, you can't drive, you can't have a bank account, you can't do anything without a photo ID. And I think it's a little bit of the soft bigotry of low expectations to imagine there's all these poor people out there without, any photo ID in Harlem. I think that's just absurd. But anyway, this is shaping up to be a partisan issue, even though it really shouldn't be.
No, it shouldn't be at all. This is such an important thing. It's, all of the platitudes you hear from the left, even though they don't sincerely mean them, they're absolutely right when they say things like that this is we're protecting the very foundation of our democracy. And yes, and of course, we do not live in a democracy, we live in a republic. But nevertheless, we have a democratic system of electing our leaders. And we do need to protect the integrity of that. We do need to make sure that every single person who is eligible to vote is able to do so. But we also need to make sure that they are voting only up until the point when they pass away, and not beyond that. And also that they're only voting one time in one precinct.
Right. Now, you did an interview today. Give us a sneak preview, just a line or two of what he said and what you found out. Because if you read the media, I mean, you have to go to the third page on a Google search to find out that there could be any problems with voter fraud and vote by mail.
Yes, it's actually quite incredible. Today I spoke to Jason Sneed, who is the executive director of the Honest Elections Project. And he was able to really go into detail to explain what some of the issues are. For instance, he gave a very comprehensive description of something that people are talking about these days called ballot harvesting, which is particularly insidious. And he also described what he sees and what his organization sees as the potential problems, and there are considerable problems with this whole idea of mail-in ballots.
Well, this won't be the last we heard of it, but hopefully the media will be talking about this a little more. Otherwise, other than saying it's great because of the coronavirus.
Yeah, that's just that's been a perfect excuse for them, as we figured that out now. That's their perfect excuse.
Thanks. That's Graham J. Noble. We look forward to reading your article, Ellen's chief political correspondent. Thanks for joining us on Truth TV today, Graham.
Thanks, Lisa.
Truth is making a comeback.
The killing of an unarmed black man in Georgia is heating up and stoking a very divisive race issue that's being funded and promoted by progressive political action committees. The controversy has caught on fire on Twitter and appears to be pitting blacks against each other. Liberty Nation's Jeff Charles has been tweeting and reporting on this topic and joins us today. Hi, Jeff, and thanks for joining us on Truth TV today.
Hey, Lisa, thanks for having me.
All right, you wrote an article this week titled "A Civil War Among Black Conservatives. Why is the Ahmaud Arbery case causing so much conflict in the black community?"
Yeah, so it's interesting because a lot of people are watching this and thinking that this just came out of nowhere. But the truth is that this I'll call it a conflict, I guess, or it's a conflict. Basically, it's been brewing for a few years now, actually. And actually, it even goes way back even longer than before I was around. Basically, in the Black conservative movement, as far as the media is concerned, like right-leaning media, they showcase really just one type of Black conservatives, which can kind of give the illusion that that there isn't diversity of thought in the Black conservative movement, but there is, especially when it comes to issues like racism or police brutality or things like that. So basically, there has been this tension between I call them the more establishment Black conservatives and the other Black conservatives over these types of issues. And really these issues really stem from things like, not really policy differences, but more differences in terms of messaging, in terms of outreach to the Black community, the overall approach. So when this story hit with the Ahmaud Arbery case, it really just ignited a powder keg that was already there.
All right, enter one Candace Owens, who tweeted the following. Black America when 9-year-old Tyshawn Lee is lured from a basketball court down an alleyway and shot dead by a Black gang member. Crickets. Black America when a repeat burglar is shot dead after breaking into a home. Racism, injustice, protest. Our culture is a joke. Your reaction, Jeff?
Yes. So that tweet right there is indicative of everything that is wrong with the Black conservative establishment. That tweet right there. Now, people can have certain disagreements on different aspects of the case. Like some people might think, oh, well, maybe it wasn't murder 1, maybe it was murder 2, or maybe it was manslaughter, or things like that. But it seems like a lot in the Black conservative establishment, they're more focused on what Arbery did or what his past was like or smearing him. But their focus is more on himself and not what happened to him. And that tends to be the reaction in any of these cases. And so in this situation, I mean, you had a situation where he was suspected of doing something, maybe, but the people who chased him down obviously showed lack of judgment. I'm being diplomatic right now, but basically, the tweet not only skews the case because that tweet wasn't really true. He wasn't committing a crime, or at least nothing on the level of what they're trying to say. But that last line, "Our culture is a joke." So basically, the right is promoting somebody as a Black conservative leader who thinks that Black culture is a joke. And that's why I say that encapsulates the main divide between the two factions of Black conservatism, because one faction relies on a really demeaning approach to Black America. They talk about all the negative statistics, and the thing is, it's not that what they're saying is all wrong. There's truth to it, but it's the way in which it's presented that tends to be a deceptive narrative and doesn't tell the whole story, so that people will have this view of Black people that is not accurate and is largely negative. Whereas people like us, we want to focus more on what are some solutions here? How can we actually make a difference instead of just demeaning Black people? Why not craft a message that would make them want to come over to the conservative side?
Right. Now, yeah, you said you watched a live stream Zoom conference among Black conservatives that really went off the rails. What happened there? Can you give us that in a nutshell?
Yeah. So that had Brandon Tatum on it, Bryson Gray. It had Antonio Okafor, Hotep Jesus, Uncle Hotep, and it was moderated by Lawrence B. Jones, and who did an excellent job, by the way. But what's happened there again was the culmination, and I think I think a lot of the Black conservative establishment, they're used to being called names by the left, or they're used to being called out by the left. But when it's coming from the right, it's a different story. Now, I'm not going to act like everybody was right in that scenario. I mean,
wait. Who was going to give who an ass whooping there?
So apparently, Brandon Tatum, he was going to give Hotep Jesus an ass whooping. So, and leading up to that point, it was already contentious, and Hotep Jesus actually admitted his part in it. He apologized for it publicly, like multiple times on his podcast and on Twitter. But yeah, it got to the point to where you saw Brandon Tatum act in a way that you don't normally see him act. And honestly, I don't know if he was just having a bad day that day, but maybe it could have just been that he wasn't able to handle the criticism from the right. But again, like even in that debate, he wasn't really answering certain questions. He was more focused on who was Arbery, what was he doing wrong, and a lot of the things he was saying that weren't really true about Arbery. But when he was asked, do you condemn what the McMichaels did, he kind of ducked and dodged a bit. So this is the issue that a lot of us have, because we look at it. This is how Black people in general look at it. These guys don't like us. They don't care about us. All they want to do is put us down so that they can get paid for it. That's their perception. And this message has really pushed Black people away from the Republican Party and from the conservative movement. Only a small percentage of Black people actually identify as liberals. The rest identify about 60% identify as either moderate or conservative. So there's absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be engaging on a certain level with the Black community, but with figureheads like this using this type of rhetoric, there's just no way it can happen.
And finally, what's your opinion? What's your take on all this, Jeff?
Honestly, I'm happy. This was a long time coming. I'm not happy about the contention. What I'm happy about is that there are other Black conservative voices getting out there. In the past, these voices did exist, but we didn't have like the social media. We didn't have the YouTubes, the podcasts. We didn't have other ways to get our voices out there. So now people in the conservative movement can see, oh, well, Black conservatives don't all think alike. There are different points of view, and it gives more of a choice in the marketplace of ideas. Do I want to go this way? Do I want to go that way? And so for that reason, I'm glad that this is happening and that it's still going on, because now there's going to be more dialogue. There's going to be more ideas, and maybe we can finally come to a solution.
All right. Thanks so much, Jeff.
Thank you.
That's Jeff Charles, Liberty Nation's socio-political correspondent. Thanks for joining us on Truth TV today.
Truth is making a comeback.
If you blink these days, you miss another meltdown on the left. Progressives are seething with frustration and lashing out at whatever poor soul gets in their way. Exhibit A, Tesla billionaire Elon Musk, who got himself a solid whooping from the left this week. But the broader issues at play here expose the hypocrisy of the left, especially the ones who inhabit Tinseltown. As CEO of Tesla and SpaceX, Musk is undoubtedly an original thinker. While he lists himself as a political independent, his actions tell a more conservative tale. So when he tweeted out a simple message, quote, "Take the red pill," and Ivanka Trump answered, "Taken," Hollywood went postal. Lily Wachowski, a producer of the red pill movie, The Matrix, did not wait too long before tweeting out a thoughtful and gracious reply, quote, "F both of you," unquote. Ah yes, the little red pill has increasingly become a prickly problem for Hollywood devotees who bleed Democratic blue. The plot in the 1999 sci-fi flick The Matrix presents the lead character with a choice, to take a red or a blue pill. The blue pill allows the protagonist to look at life through a beautiful prison. It would lead him back to ignorance, living in confined comfort without want or fear within the simulated reality of the Matrix. However, if he chooses the red pill, a much more challenging journey lies before him because it will mean an uncertain future that would free him from the enslaving control of the machine-generated dream world. In other words, do you want to live in bondage in a false reality or take your chances with freedom in the real world? Much to the chagrin of the Matrix Hollywood producers, the red pill fits perfectly into a conservative worldview. And the right has latched onto this with increasing frequency. Candace Owens and Kanye West are two that have stolen the red pill from the left. This makes Musk, West, and Owens public enemies. They're lumped in with white supremacists, particularly amusing in the case of Owens. Civil discourse is exiled, and in its place are insults designed to discredit and disparage good people. The progressive left, who champion themselves as open-minded and gentle green people, demonstrate that lurking just beneath the surface are angry, name-calling bullies who brook no one bold enough to counter them. This is the hypocrisy of the left, that those who choose to live authentically should suffer a good beatdown and then be cast into a dystopian abyss. Soon the left will have its way as it seeks to control free speech in multiple ways over internet platforms that millions of people use. But one wonders if this tyranny of the left may produce more Americans who, like Musk, and in defiance of their leftist betters, choose the red pill. And that's my viewpoint for today.
Truth is making a comeback.
And that's it for another edition of Truth TV. Thanks so much for tuning in. And remember to hit LibertyNation.com early and often. And subscribe to our Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and our new Roku channel. And remember, liberty all the time and everywhere.
Ready, set, go.
Stay ahead of the curve with LibertyNation.com, because we put the power of the press in your hands. With one click, Liberty Nation delivers tomorrow's news.
And remember, liberty
today,
all the time and everywhere.
Liberty Nation connected the dots between a Chinese research biolab and a wet market where COVID-19 was supposedly discovered 2 months before the MSM. We were first to alert you of a serious attack on gun rights in Virginia. LN honed in on the Biden-Burisma scandal months before it hit the papers. We brought you exclusive interviews from the border.
We're looking at people just rising up.
Liberty Nation was on the ground in London.
Trump rally in front of the American embassy.
Bringing you on-the-scene reports about Brexit. LN reported that COVID-19 was more virulent but less deadly weeks before others. LibertyNation.com delivers tomorrow's news today with LNTV's Liberty Nation Radio, The Uprising and Rabbit Hole podcasts, and dozens of insightful original articles, and a new Roku channel. Stay ahead of the curve with LibertyNation.com and get tomorrow's news today. LibertyNation.com.
Truth is making a comeback. Visit us at libertynation.com.